and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stashu.
And I'm Mike White.
And this is Mike White. And this is the end of Mike White March, even though it's technically April. So if you have a problem with that, I got a complaint box that you can lodge your complaints with, but you're not going to like where it is. However, we're rounding out Mike White March with a film that I'd never heard of, and frankly, I kind of wish I had never watched. We're going to be talking about 1978's action crime drama, Money Movers.
Not The Money Movers.
No, Money Movers.
Just Money Movers.
Crap. Maybe. But what sort of security man can afford not to take it seriously?
You've always said you were the one person who could rob this place.
Yes, that's true.
Brian, your truck, our truck, will be the second last one in.
I got $2 million in that van. $2 million bucks? What's the bloody matter? You've been around money too long. You're going off your head.
Looks like he couldn't find his way out of a light fog.
You've got a secret, haven't you? What is it?
You cut me in for a modest percentage, and I'll let the whole plan go ahead and give you some backup. How about that, Eric?
There's no safe in here. That's that old arm.
Trust is the name of the game, Brian.
Trust? If one of your mob said good morning, I'd put on my pajamas and go to bed. That's how much I'd trust.
I take it we're unanimous in telling the management they can shove their chains. No!
Looks bought your expensive video gears on the blink. Did you send someone over straight away? It's our big day.
Look, I haven't got a secret. Well, maybe it's a secret of Darcy's.
We have one dissenting voice.
That's right. Listen, if we're chained to the money, it'll make it impossible for anyone to steal it.
Do you think I look like Faye Dunaway? Girls at work reckon I do.
Do something about that blood, Ernest. It'll run all over the carpet. Bring in the nail clippers. They say the counting house is impregnable, but someone has a plan to relieve it of $20 million. There's a plan to take it from him and one to stop him. The lucky ones only lose their toes.
It's directed by Bruce Beresford, based on the novel by Devin Minchin, stars Terrence Donovan, Tony Bonner, Ed Devereaux, and a very young Bryan Brown, a non-FX Bryan Brown, which I'm assuming is how most American audience members would know if an American audience members had seen this movie, though I'm not kidding myself when I say that I think the only person who saw this movie is Quentin Tarantino, and he probably loves it. He's probably just spinning around the room, shitting out of his ass in delight at how great this movie is.
You'd be surprised there's a lot of reviews of this movie out there, and I read every single one of them because I had the hardest time making out what the hell was going on in this movie.
Exactly. When you said that to me, I don't remember if you said it on the last Mike White March podcast we did or in private but off podcast. You were like, I had a hard time watching the first time I was watching. I was like, I don't know if it can be that hard compared to like some of the samurai films we watched last year, but holy shit, this movie's hard to follow. And it is so plotting and poorly paced and honestly poorly acted and poorly shot that I'm surprised that this is like a film that anyone like talks about as like an exploitation like gem or like underrated gem. Like I don't see it, but I'm curious, Mike, what did you think of this film?
I found it easier to follow a lot of those Japanese movies, even though all those guys look Japanese. And
it's in subtitles, and they're subtitled on top of everything else.
Right.
They're speaking English in this movie.
It's easier to tell those guys apart than it is to tell these guys apart because they almost all look the same to me. They all have like the sandy brown hair, kind of floppy, about the same height, and I was just like, who are these? Like, I could tell, of course, Bryan Brown. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got him. Terry Camilleri, who is Dino, the little guy, who's kind of like fucking vicious in that movie. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see him. I know where he's at. But like Bryan Brown's brother versus the security guard versus this guy versus that guy, I'm like, who are these guys? And I watched the movie like twice. Like I said, I read a bunch of reviews of it. So I'm like, okay, I kind of see what the plot is, but I went back and I watched it a second time. I still couldn't really figure it out. And I feel really stupid because a lot of people seem to like this movie, but I just was not getting it.
So one of the actors, I just kept referring to him as, and you'll probably find this funny, and if anyone has seen this movie, you'll totally get it. I'm assuming this is the actor. Terrence Donovan is the guy who gets his pinky toe cut off, right?
Yes.
That guy is, like, I just kept referring to him as not Christoph Waltz.
Oh, I can see that.
Because he totally just kind of looks like Christoph Waltz. But I'll tell you what, Christoph Waltz is a much better actor.
Yeah.
I can't tell if the script is bad or if the acting is subpar. One of the DVD cover for this movie says action that will hit you like an armored truck. What? Where? In the last 10 minutes of the movie? The movie literally gets to the last 8 minutes and then something finally happens.
But it's weird, though. The cutting style of this movie is really bizarre.
Michael Bay-esque?
Well, I was sitting there, like, I don't know if you do this, but I will kind of average out the time between edits, and I'll sit there and I'll do this. I'll count, and I'll say like 1, 2, 3, and then if there's a new cut, I'll say 1, 2, and I was just sitting there going 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, and I was just like, holy shit, there's so many cuts in this thing. It is crazy.
Holy shit, am I watching Bohemian Rhapsody? There's a little dig at you, you fucking clown academy. Oh my god. I don't, it's hard to follow this movie already, but yeah, like you said, then when the cuts are coming hot and heavy, it's like, what? No. Slow down. Wait. Come on. Let something happen. Let a full scene happen without this like spastic ADHD level of cutting that like doesn't help.
And I can understand when it's like the action scenes, like the armored car robbery at the beginning. I'm like, okay, you can cut that quick. But when it's like just two guys talking, I'm like, holy cow, man. I mean, it's more than reverse shot. It's just all over the place.
And, I think the other issue with this movie is what is happening I didn't find inherently interesting. Like, oh, they're trying to steal money from an armored truck, and there's maybe some intrigue as to how they're going to do it or if they're going to be able to pull it off. But there's like no stakes. I didn't feel any stakes. Does that make sense?
It does. And I guess, so reading the reviews and stuff, it sounds like there's actually multiple robberies and plots and stuff that are happening all at the same time. And there's the robbery that happens, but then there's another one that's being planned, and then there's the corruption of the guys who are in charge. And I was like, okay, well, that sounds interesting, but I just wasn't able to tease that out of the movie I watched. Again, I feel really stupid for this.
I don't feel stupid, and neither should you, because I think it's just a failure of the movie on its own. I think it's just a failure. I think the movie fails to be coherent with the plot. And that's fine if you're talking like a spy movie where there's like a lot of intrigue, or maybe there's like a twist at the end. And there is kind of a twist at the end of this movie, but the twist isn't interesting. And honestly, I didn't even realize it was a twist until I went and read the synopsis. And I was like, okay, so that's what the whole reveal is at the end of the film. But it's not anything where I was so kind of tuned into the movie throughout. I was like, I really want to figure out where this is going and how this happens. And it's like, no, it's just, there's nothing to it.
I don't know what to say about this movie.
So that's the problem that I was worried about running into on this podcast. This is one of those films that I genuinely don't know what else there is to say. And I haven't had very many of these in, my God, I'm almost at 300 episodes now of this podcast. It has been an almost 5-year endeavor doing this podcast, and this is one of the few movies that I have ever talked about that I genuinely don't know what else there is to say.
Yeah.
Right?
I kind of wish that I'd seen the making of, which was actually directed by Mark Hartley, the guy who directed It Came from Hollywood. Or, sorry, not quite Hollywood. And I was kind of wishing that I had been able to see the making of, which strangely enough was directed by Mark Hartley, the same guy who did Not Quite Hollywood. But I don't remember, does he mention this movie in Not Quite Hollywood?
No,
Okay.
they don't, which I'm going to level with you, man. I feel like that's a kind of indicative of this film, right?
I guess, yeah, it's just...
There's nothing to it. It's like, and on like Wikipedia, it's like, it's one of the few films from the 70s that dealt with crime and police corruption as an entrenched state of being. And one of the earliest to embrace extremely violent action. And really?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the toe cutting scene, maybe, and the one guy who's selling sausages who gets blown away, but I don't know. It's funny that, I just have been watching all these Mad Max movies, not as part of this, but for another podcast, and I'm just like, okay, so I get a character named the Toe Cutter in Mad Max who doesn't necessarily cut any toes, but then we get this movie where we do get to see a toe cut off, and I'm like, to your point from earlier, I can totally see that as being like, Marvin Nash with his ear in Reservoir Dogs.
Well, and, when they're talking about the fact that, like you're saying, the thing with the toe cutting, it's like extremely violent action. Like, didn't Mad Dog Morgan come out before this movie?
Yeah, like 4 years, I think.
And that movie is way more violent.
Yeah.
And, like, extreme. I would go out on a limb and say that Mad Dog Morgan is a much more extreme film than this one. And there's like people having their heads blown off. And, like, you have Dennis Hopper, like, gurgling on blood and his death and all that. And you've got this movie that's pretty much like a limp rag. Yeah, okay, at the end, there's a little bit of, like, a standoff in the counting house, as they like to call it. But I think the problem is with this movie is it takes so long to get to the quote-unquote action and payoff that it's making me yearn for the days of stilted Jimmy Wang Yu going, oh, yes, I am a Chinese cop. Like, it makes me yearn for those days because that movie was fucking fantastic.
All those weeks ago, man, when we got to see that.
Right? And or even Stone was better than this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I've come to appreciate Stone a lot more as I've talked to the guys who were in it and stuff. And I was just like, okay, yeah. But I kept being reminded of Stanley Kubrick's The Killing while I was watching this. I think it was partially the masks that the guys are wearing, the whole robbery idea. That's got a fractured timeline rather than this, which just has the super quick editing. And I found The Killing to be an easier movie to follow, and I just kind of wanted to watch The Killing more than I wanted to watch this one. And I feel like that's bad when I sit there going, man, I wish I was watching something else instead of this.
I have never seen The Killing, but...
Oh, well, hey, there's a possible suggestion for April or May.
Kubrick movies?
Could be.
I wish, and here's the thing. You want me to be honest with you? I would love to extend this Ozploitation thing out like another 4 months.
Yeah.
Because these movies have been fantastic. Like, even as milquetoast as this movie is, which it is so not, it's like, it is a movie that I will genuinely probably forget I have ever watched it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are podcasts on the RSS feed for the Culture Cast that are just, whenever someone asks like, hey, what episode would you suggest? This one wouldn't even blip on the radar. Like, this movie wouldn't blip because it's like you have to watch the movie to listen to the podcast. And this movie is so, middle of the road that there's not even, like, why?
Well, and now it's like, so I feel bad talking about this movie this way since, a friend of mine recommended it to me. So I'm just like, that's awkward. I kind of wish that we had watched something like Breaker Morant or The Adventures of Barry Mackenzie, which were also Bruce Beresford films, rather than this. This guy's got a crazy career. I mean, Tender Mercies, when he moved over to the U.S. and started making U.S. films, did like Tender Mercies and Driving Miss Daisy and a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just like, really? This is the same guy? It seems kind of crazy.
And he directed that Roots remake that they did like 2 years ago?
Oh, God, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, so did I, until just right now. But, yeah, I mean, Driving Miss Daisy, it was the 80s Green Book.
I think it was better than Green Book myself. Yeah.
I mean, Green Book, one of the more disappointing films that we've seen as an Oscar-winning film.
Boy, that's 2 bad Oscars that come up in this episode.
Is it? What's the other one?
You were talking about the editing of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, that's right. Jeez. Well, hey, you know what? What would you give this film out of 5?
A 2.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's unfortunate, like you said, because I can't tell, because I've never spoken with your Australian friend, if this film holds some sort of personal significance to your friend. I hope it doesn't, and I hope we're not unnecessarily shitting all over this movie, but this movie's not great, so... Yeah. And you know what? One dud in a month of great films, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Oscars... I didn't get a chance to talk about this a whole lot, so I want to touch on it a little bit. And there's a couple little housekeeping things I want to do, but you mentioned it, so I feel like I haven't gotten to talk about it on the podcast, neither do you. Oscars this year, good, bad, same old, same old.
So I missed the first half hour because
4.5 more hours to watch.
I thought it started at 9, and I was still recording a podcast at 8:30, so I was done at I guess I missed the first 20 minutes because I got upstairs 10 minutes to 9, and it was already going on. And I didn't feel at the end of the night let's go back and watch this on the DVR.
Look at you showing your age. DVR.
Yeah. What am I supposed to say? My, what's the thing that President Trump just invited? My TiVo.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I didn't talk about my TiVo.
Is that the little box with the legs?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they didn't do some of my favorite things, which are have a theme and talk about the theme and then have clips and montages. They had the death montage. They really spent a lot of time on the songs, which this year was okay for songs. I mean, that whole Lady Gaga, what's the other guy's name?
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, thank you.
I mean, you knew that was going to win.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And the thing that I always think about the Oscars, and I'm curious your thoughts, right? I honestly think the Oscars are horse shit. And, they are... what's the name of that show? Oh God, the guy with the hair on True TV, Adam Ruins Everything. He did a whole episode about award shows and tears the Oscars a new asshole. And if you're a fan of the Oscars, you should do yourself a favor and go watch it, because I'm not saying I'm smarter than everyone else, and I know that you and I are not saying we're not smarter than everyone else. I know you wouldn't say that, but
well,
okay, maybe you would, and maybe I would, just not on the podcast. I think the Oscars are fucking stupid. They
are, but they're my thing.
Right, they're supposed to be. That's the movie person thing. This is our award show that we can take, we can grab and take credit for, right?
Right.
But, at the end of the day, we deserve better as movie fans than this shit. That's that's the sad part here.
Well, it's almost it's like when I was younger and I was very into music, and I would watch, not the Billboard Awards, I'm trying to remember, the Grammys, and just seeing how painfully out of touch they were. The year that Jethro Tull won Best Metal Album over Metallica. And it's just
I don't know about you, but I listen to a lot of Jethro Tull on vinyl.
They are super metal too, right? I mean, especially that flute is super metal.
Aqualung, dude. Hey, Aqualung. Yeah, metal.
So you watch the Oscars. I watch the Oscars for Schadenfreude most of the time, because it's just
it's a hate fuck.
Exactly. How out of touch are these people?
And every year it gets worse.
And the lip service that they pay to oh, well, this year's cause, we're going to talk about minorities or women, and it's just yeah, that's really important that you talk about it, but it just feels like you are pandering so much. Oh my God. But yet then you have people that take it seriously, like a Frances McDormand or Patricia Arquette, who, a lot of these people have been through hell, and they get up there and they make these very impassioned speeches. So then I feel guilty for hate watching this. But at the same time, then the next year rolls around and it's just okay, what are they going to say this year? And it's just, it gets to be a little much. And then I think about years when Michael Moore got up there and was ripping on George W. Bush for his fake war, and people were booing him. And I was just you idiots, you, in 2 years, you're going to come around to his point of view, and, you are going to be the idiots around here. And sure enough, that's how it was.
I think my issues with the Oscars are similar but different to yours. So look, I like you, and I like you.
Thank you.
I am one of those people who supports all of these causes, minorities, women, but like, of course I do. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
And that's the problem here, is jacking yourself off in front of 29 million American viewers on ABC about how in touch with women and minorities you are. Fuck you. Because you should be anyways. We shouldn't have to keep you honest. You shouldn't have to be told to do it. You should just fucking do it. Like, that's, and the sad thing is in this day and age, people have to be fucking told how to do shit. And like, look, I'm no one's fucking police. I'm not the culture policeman of this country any more than you are. And I shouldn't have to tell someone, oh yeah, it's great that Jordan Peele won for best original screenplay and he was the first black man to do it. Of course. But like, the problem here is this disconnect where people are like, well, we have to nominate. It's like, you don't have to do anything. Nominate what's good. You people, oops. The Academy shouldn't feel obligated to nominate people of color. They should just do it because that's the right thing to do, because the movies are good. Right. Jesus Christ. If Spike Lee makes a good movie and it's worthy of nomination, then fucking nominate him. Don't be like, well, black man got nominated for director. It's like, who gives a shit? He made a good movie, so fucking nominate him. And the Oscars, like, shitting their pants and like trying to show everybody how great they are at being, quote unquote, with the times, like you said, very patronizing. It just falls flat. It feels so disingenuous because the Academy Awards, like anything else, are a fucking product. They are a product that we are being sold. They're advertisements. Coca-Cola does ads. American Express does ads. It is a ratings for ABC. It is a product that you are being sold.
Well, and who else advertises on this show but Rolex? And who can afford a Rolex? Not you or me.
No,
that's for fucking sure.
Dude, I can't even afford a Sharpie to write a watch on my arm, let alone a actual watch. I can afford one of those children's Spider-Man watches from fucking Walmart.
And again, sorry, but Rolex, it's like, who... I know this is going to piss people off, but who wears watches these days? Like older people? I don't think... Really? You wear a watch? I
genuinely wear a watch.
Wow.
But you know what? It was a gift that I was given when I was in high school by my dad, so it has some emotional significance to me.
Okay.
But I wear a watch because you know what? I had an Apple Watch. Fucking thing didn't hold a charge through an entire day. So you know what I said? Fuck it. I threw it in the glove box of my car. If you want to break into my car and come steal my piece of shit Apple Watch, go right ahead. And I wear an actual watch. It's a kinetic watch, which means I never have to replace the battery. I went and got the band and the bezel replaced last year, but it wasn't a $1,000 watch either. It was like a $200 watch that my dad bought me when I was like 14. So yeah. I do, but I think the bigger point of your argument is who wears a $3,000 watch?
Right. Hollywood assholes.
Assholes like Rami Malek, who, good job being the biggest prick on stage with your acceptance speech. You sound like such a patronizing asshole.
Yeah.
Oh, God gave me this gift. No one gave you this gift. You put some fake vampire teeth in your mouth and pretended to be Freddie Mercury for 2 hours. And I guess someone in the Academy thought that you did a better job portraying a real person than the other 4 of 5 people who were nominated for playing real people.
Yeah, which is just bizarre. I mean,
right?
That old joke about like playing for disabilities and stuff is like, is it this character who played the narcoleptic truck driver, or is it this guy who played the one-armed salesman, just all these kind of things, and that ends up being still what gets nominated for Oscars. You sit there in September.
Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. said it in Tropic Thunder. You never go full retard, and the only reason you do is to get an Oscar, and look what happened.
Exactly. And you sit there, and around September, November, you go, okay, this one's going to get nominated, this one's going to get nominated, what else? I can look at the trailers right now and say, what are the movies that are going to get nominated? And 9 chances out of 10, my mom's going to be buying a ticket right away.
Yeah, and the movies aren't so many of these movies aren't anything exciting. Like Best Picture winner was Green Book, which it is the worst film to win Best Picture since Crash, but it is in the same vein of why it won. Mm-hmm. It's that same patron, and I don't want to be that guy, but Black Panther should never have been nominated. But you know what? I would have, if the options are Green Book and Black Panther, Black Panther all day.
Exactly. Because which one am I actually going to want to watch a second time?
Right, exactly. Or a first time. I've seen enough of Green Book to know I don't want to finish the whole movie. And I read the script for it, and I can't even understand what... I mean, the thing with the editing in Bohemian Rhapsody was a joke enough. I think the Oscars have lost their minds, and or they're just going senile.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like.
Right? I mean, good. There are some people that won. Alfonso Cuarón, great. He won again. Like the guy can do movies like nobody else. You know, except for make movies that are on a small screen because Steven Spielberg says that's a bad thing.
Oh, that's opened up a whole other ball of wax.
But let me point it out to you. That is connected to this entire argument.
That is.
Because Alfonso Cuarón won for Best Director for a film that had to be released in theaters so that it could be considered for the Academy Awards. Which, by the way, if that doesn't give you an idea as to how antiquated this fucking system is, it's like saying, because your music never came out on a CD, we cannot nominate you for a Grammy, which I don't know if that may actually be the thing. I'm not sure. That may actually be reality. I don't know enough about the Grammys to know that, but I know about the Academy Awards.
Right. Well, the rules used to be it had to play in a theater in LA County for a week or something like that.
And it also had to be on film, because the reason Zodiac didn't get nominated for an Oscar was because it was the first film shot on digital.
Really? Wow.
I may be wrong, but I remember that being a huge point of contention at the time. And if you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that Zodiac is one of my favorite movies. So, I mean, again, I could give a shit if it got nominated, but it's those weird idiosyncrasies within their own system that, like, disqualifies stuff for seemingly no reason.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was weird that Cuarón was nominated, that Roma was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, but then there's no, like, foreign language director. It's just the categories are strange, and then sometimes I'll look at the things that are nominated for Best Foreign Film, or Foreign Language Film, I should say, and they are marked as coming out 2 years prior rather than a year prior, and it's like, okay, is that because it didn't get a release in the U.S. until this date? But what about this? So their rules around, like, what dates qualify as well are also strange. And then there's always the insult of the death montage and who qualifies for that. That just makes me so angry these days, especially now after having done, the podcast for like 8 years, and I talk to people and I know what they've done in the industry, and then when they get omitted from the death montage, it's just like, wow, that is really insulting.
Yeah, like people you have spoken to, and people I've spoken to as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if Morgan Shepard's going to be on it next year.
Right.
But he just passed away, like a month ago?
Yeah.
Is that before the Oscars or after?
I think it was after.
Like, you know what? As shitty as this sounds, I bet he won't even be on that list.
Right. Well, and it was weird, too, because, like, Stanley Donen passed away just, like, a couple days before, and they couldn't update the montage to include him, or, like, just a shot from Singing in the Rain?
No. How dare you? How dare you question the Academy? But, like,
it's just so insulting.
Well,
and again, it's that pandering thing. Like, we have our Hollywood royalty, and the people that we deign to say, you should remember this person.
Yeah, like when Meryl Streep dies.
Yeah.
They're gonna at the end of the in memoriam, they're gonna do like in Inglourious Bastards, which I hate even referencing this. They're gonna lock the theater and burn the entire thing down and be like, now we're done with the Academy Awards because Meryl Streep can't be nominated for her 30th one, and you're all burning to the ground with us. And then all the seat warmers are gonna be like, oh god, what a fucking night to pick to be a seat warmer. But, and as much bad as there is in the Oscars, because, there's a boatload of bad. There are some bright moments, like Olivia Colman winning is fantastic. Yeah. She's an amazing actress.
Yes, she is.
She was in Hot Fuzz, which is, one of the greatest
films.
Yeah, yes. One of the greatest films ever made. And like watching that movie now will make me even happier to know that someone who was in like a fucking genre film and busted her ass to really make a career got rewarded for it. But then you have shit like Rami Malek winning, which makes me want to slam my head against Bryan Singer's gravestone for his career. What did you think I was going to say? Also, let's not forget to point out that a child molesters film was nominated for multiple things. They actually won 4 Oscars.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know that by the fact that they didn't mention him once. So it's so weird. This whole thing is weird, right?
Yeah. Well, and then these days now where it's like those like short bus Oscars where it's just like, hey, we also across town, we also took a bunch of nerds and we put them in a room with a beautiful girl so they could get little boners and stuff. And these are actually the guys who are doing the things that could make most of these Best Picture award winners possible. So fuck these guys, right? It's like these are the guys who come up with the offline editing, the use of this special effect, that special effect, this sound effect, that sound effect. And it's just like, yeah, fuck all these guys for their innovations, you know, just, and the people that have been in the business for 50, 60 years. It's just like, oh yeah, and we awarded like, I don't know, fucking Lillian Gish an Oscar. Fuck this old lady, right? She's not coming to the main ceremony. She's in the special Oscars.
Which one was that? Is that the honorary awards or the Thalbergs?
It's like one or the other, and I don't even remember them giving away like a special honorary Oscar this year at the ceremony, did they?
No, they didn't. The honorary awards were like, I don't know. I didn't even see them because Lalo Schifrin got an honorary award.
But he got it at the special awards.
Yeah, the special awards, filmed in an off-site location.
Right.
I don't think it wasn't with a woman this time. The person, I think that they like shirked conventions as to who they had doing the scientific and technical. I think it was like, what's that guy's name? He played Martin Luther King in Selma. David Oyelowo? Jesus Christ, don't kill me for that one. David Oyelowo was the guy who presented it.
Really? They didn't pair him up with a beautiful girl?
No, I think it was just him.
Oh, wow. For a while, it was like Charlize Theron's job. It's like, go on over there.
or like Olivia Wilde or something.
Yeah.
Like, please stay away from us. Go talk to the dirty nerds.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know, man. Like the whole thing with the Oscars, it's just every year they come around. Every year I always feel the exact same way when they're over. They're always a disappointment. And this year was shit like Green Book winning, directed by Peter fucking Farrelly of all people. Oh my God. At least it's not the other Farrelly brother. Holy shit.
I mean, I'm okay with Peter Farrelly having made something that wasn't a comedy. That's fine. Stretch your wings, stretch your muscles. That's fine. But then when it's like all this shit comes out about him and the writer and stuff, it's just like, whoa, especially the writer who's just like, oh yeah, I saw them celebrating. I saw them in New York and New Jersey too celebrating 9/11. It's just like, really? They're going to let this guy on stage?
Yeah, and they did.
Yeah. And he's the guy that they started booing at the end, wasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't get that. I guess some people were saying, oh, it's because they cut the mic. And I was like, oh, I thought it was because he was the asshole that was talking about, you know, Muslims celebrating 9/11.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the whole thing with, like, I'm not a huge fan of Michael Moore. I think the guy's kind of...
Oh, he's totally full of himself and a piece of shit.
Guy's like a total fucking dickhead. But like, you know, the whole thing, and like Marlon Brando did the whole, I'm not going to accept my award. Please come accept it for me. Like, I'm not sure anyone should ever try to top that with trying to make a statement at the Academy Awards, because that's like the mic drop of mic drops. Just being like, I'm winning and I don't even care. And so every time anyone goes up and tries to do like a, this is what I think, like, you do understand that there are people who live in this country that are watching this that are like in the Midwest and are like, click, don't care. It's like, why are you're preaching to people that couldn't care less. This is not the platform for people who care, unfortunately, which is unfortunate, because like, I would love to hear what these people have to say. Unfortunately, not very many of us care.
Yeah.
And by not very many of us, I mean, they're not the people that are watching, because a lot of it are people who are having, and I can't believe this is the thing, and I'm sorry if you have one, Oscar watch parties.
I have not had one since the year that Silence of the Lambs won. So
Holy shit.
Yeah. Were you even born yet?
Was that 91?
I think so.
I was bored.
Okay.
I was a year old.
You were bored?
I was bored.
Yeah.
So Academy Awards, not great, but I mean, shocking.
And I also don't bet on the Oscars. I'm not very good at it.
Right, yeah, me either. I'll tell you what, though, the thing that I did like, no host.
I actually like that as well, because...
I think the era of having hosts is over.
The whole idea of the host, I mean, other than the opening monologue, and I missed whatever that train wreck was.
Women are funny, dude.
Okay.
They should have had Amy Schumer out there talking about how stinky her pussy is, and then everyone would have been busting at the seams with laughter.
Well, did she steal that joke from somebody?
Oh, probably. I mean, to be fair, John Mulaney can't talk about how smelly his pussy is. He doesn't have one. So Amy Schumer has the market cornered on, quote, talking about how her vagina smells like a, quote, barnyard animal. There you go. Look, I think women in comedy are hilarious. I don't find people funny that steal other people's jokes.
No, me neither. The whole thing of her talking about her underwear was totally right off of a Jenny Slate thing from Obvious Child. But anyway.
What's her whole argument? It's that, like, what, parallel thinking?
Yeah, sure, synchronicity.
Yeah, okay.
Just from a bunch of other stuff. According to her, she doesn't watch TV, doesn't read anything, never goes to any stand-up, never watches any stand-up, doesn't listen to the radio. She I think Amy Schumer comes home and locks herself in a hermetically sealed cube or something.
Well, and according to me, I have a 13-inch cock, but just because I said it doesn't make it true.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I mean, I've seen pictures. I would say no more than 9.
Right. Sure, there was no banana present, but we can imagine.
I mean, but other than those weirdo breaks that they've been... So you got the opening monologue, and then you get the smarmy fucking host coming out and going, hey, how's everybody doing? We only got 5 more hours to go. Hey, how about I order tacos for everybody? Or, hey, how about we take a selfie? Or any of those stupid fucking stunts that they were doing.
Was that a Kimmel thing?
Yeah, or fucking Ellen. Let's take the big selfie. Or, yeah, let's go across the street. That was a Kimmel. Let's go across the street and I'll buy popcorn for everybody and blah, blah, blah. Who fucking cares? And
See, we're just like you. Except you're
complaining about how long the ceremony is, and now you're wasting our time.
Yeah. But look, we're just like you. I, too, like to eat popcorn with butter.
Do you have duck fat?
Yeah. Do you have a what is that rendered? Oh God. Clarified butter only, please.
There you go.
Yeah, clarified butter.
And then the other thing is they just get up there and they go, okay, and now here's Will Smith and, Maria Conchita Alonso introducing this thing. So their job is to introduce the people they introduce. And then that guy gets introduced by the voiceover host. It's like, and now a couple of funny people, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, we don't need a host anymore. We're good.
Also, how played out is it? Did you see the thing where, Melissa McCarthy, is that her name? Yeah. Came out on stage and she was like, I'm dressed up in a weird costume. How many times are they going to do this goddamn bit?
God.
Man, Hollywood's sense of humor is about as stupid as I thought.
I'm surprised she didn't resurrect the Kermit dress because Lady Gaga was there.
I'm surprised she didn't start making queef jokes because Melissa McCarthy.
That is a thing. I'm surprised she didn't come out in Bjork's swan dress from 1992.
God. I'm surprised she didn't come out like J-Lo from 1999.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole thing, the Oscars are so much fun to make fun of. I think that they ultimately, that's the real takeaway is, it's a lot of fun to make fun of them.
It is. I mean, that's what I do is I just live tweet and make smarmy remarks the entire time.
Oh, I know. And then I like them, and then you like mine, and we go back and forth. It's just like a circle jerk.
Big old circle jerk.
Pooping back and forth forever.
Yeah.
Before we close this podcast out, there's 2 more things I want to kind of talk about.
Okay.
I want to talk about the thing with Steven Spielberg because I haven't gotten really a chance to talk about it, and it's an Academy Award thing because, again, the quote-unquote the landscape of Hollywood is changing dramatically due to the introduction of Apple Plus. Yes. Another streaming platform. Changing the game.
But don't worry, they're not going to make movies or anything, just TV shows.
Yes, because TV shows can't get nominated for things.
Right, TV shows are Golden Globes.
Yeah. But to be fair, Golden Globes are horseshit because any award show that thinks that nominating The Martian as a comedy automatically loses any amount of credibility in my book.
Well, it's like those heavy metal guys.
Jethro Tull.
Jethro Tull told me,
Yeah. Great. Yeah. I mean, look, good for Steven Spielberg that they decided to back a Brinks truck up to his fucking house and dump, they dumped so much money on his property that he doesn't know what to do with, as if he knew what to do with all the money he was making to begin with. But you look like an asshole when you complain about streaming content and then you just go and sign with the new and up and coming streaming platform.
Not much. I mean, yeah. That whole thing.
I don't know. What else is
It's just disappointing.
So
yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, so you might have noticed that Eric is not on this podcast. And moving forward, Eric will not be my every week co-host anymore. His schedule has kind of gotten to the point where he has to allocate time to different things than to the podcast, which, hey, you know what? We're all adults here and everybody's getting older every day, and it happens. So from here on out, until things change, I will be joined by kind of hopefully a rotating gallery of folks you've heard before, some folks you haven't. And one of them is obviously going to be Mr. Mike White. A couple other folks here and there. I don't want to spoil any surprises or give anything away or speak too soon before I speak to them directly. But that's kind of be the format. The format will still be the same, but we're definitely going to be changing up how I have co-hosts, which is fine because the podcast is going to continue. And if you've been here for a couple years, you know that I've had a couple different co-hosts over the years to begin with. So... what is it? What's that thing Matthew McConaughey says in Dazed and Confused? Podcasts keep changing and I stay the same age, or they stay the same age and I keep getting older. I don't know. I don't watch Linklater films. But that's kind of something I wanted to talk about and kind of get that out of the way because, Eric will be here from time to time, but we just don't know kind of what his schedule looks like yet. So until then, it's kind of not a one-man show, but it's a man and his dog.
My dog barks some.
So I hope so. Oh my God. Oh geez. Well, and I don't even know what we're doing for April yet. So, right now the podcast is in a little bit of flux. So bear with me for a week or two until I can kind of get a schedule back underneath. We'll try to do a couple podcasts, but we need to kind of get back to center, as we need to come back to center with the podcast. So it's been kind of in flux last couple months with us trying to figure out Eric's schedule. So until then, whenever then is, probably a week or two from now, because I honestly can't just stop doing this, where can people find you, Mr. Mike White?
You can find me over at the Projection Booth Podcast, which is available at projectionboothpodcast.com, believe it or not.
I heard you might do some other
podcasts,
some other expository podcasts,
occasionally
extracurriculars.
Off the record, completely hush-hush. I do 2 other podcasts. One is called Dreams for Sale, which is all about the mid-'80s Twilight Zone incarnation, and you can find that over at twilightzone85.com, and I do that with...
And we may even be talking about the new show.
We might be. And yeah, I do that with you and Mr. Father Malone. And then also do a podcast with you called The Kolchak Tapes, which is available at The Kolchak Tapes.
Is that just KolchakTapes.com?
Yeah, just JustKolchakTapes.com.
And as always, you can find me here on the Culturecast. You can find me over at a little podcast I do with my buddy Father Malone, the aforementioned Father Malone, talking about Chronicles from the Crypt. Talking about Tales from the Crypt on a little podcast called Chronicles from the Crypt. You can find that one at chroniclesftc.com. Big thanks to Mike. Big thanks to you, the listener. Big thanks to, what's your friend's name, the Australian guy?
Morris Brzezinski.
Oh, wow, that is not an Australian name. It's too bad his name's not like Mick O'Donnell or something. Big thanks to Morris Brzezinski.
We call him Croc.
Do you really? Boy, we are now. Thanks to Morris Croc Brzezinski for picking these movies. Sorry, Money Movers wasn't the kind of the home run at the end of a month of doubles and triples. But, they can't all be winners. And you know what? We may revisit Ozploitation because watching Not Quite Hollywood really revved up my engine to watch some of those movies. Especially a one about a big fucking pig.
Razorback.
Hey, that's not a pig. This is a pig. So, make sure to catch us on the next Culturecast.